Welcome to the Confessions of a CRA podcast. I'm your host, Jasmyn Adams. I went from a struggling, aspiring CRA to landing my first CRA job with no monitoring experience or certification, and was able to fast track my career to a senior CRA making six figures in less than 2 years, and then on to multiple six figures plus a CRA coaching business. I teach aspiring CRAs how to attract and break into their first CRA position with no monitoring experience or certification and fast track their career using mindset and career development strategies. Now, let's dive all the way in. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Confessions of a CRA. I'm so excited that you decided to join me here today. Y'all know I never take my listeners for granted, so thank you. I really appreciate it. And I'm pretty sure you're going to find today's topic very interesting. Some might even say controversial, because today we're going to be talking about why getting a certification or a certificate is not the solution to solve your problem of landing your first CRA job. Now, I know some of you already might be mind blown, like, what is this girl talking about? I know for sure if I get certified, if I get a certificate, it's going to help me. Like, that's crazy. I've never heard that before. Well, I didn't say it won't help you guys. I didn't say that at all. What I'm saying is that it's not the solution to your problem if your problem is landing your first CRA job. Maybe you're struggling. Maybe you've been trying for a while. Maybe you haven't even gotten started. You don't know where to start. Maybe you've gotten conflicting advice. Not sure what your particular situation is, but if you have a problem of figuring out how to land your first CRA job, how to break into that first CRA role, then certificates, not the solution to your problem. So before we get into all of that, I want to share a story with you about one of my clients. I have a couple of clients in particular who came to me, one specifically, who came to me, and she was in the process of getting a certification, a clinical research certification. And I won't say who it was with or what company it was with, but she was very adamant in saying that, she didn't really want to work with me just yet because she wanted to finish the certification. And she felt like that was really the key to landing her job. And she just couldn't figure out, well, how would she be able to land the job without this certification? So it really didn't make sense to start working on her resume and LinkedIn profile and interviewing and things like that until she had this, what she thought, basic requirement. And when she first came to me, she kept going back and forth, and she ultimately decided to wait, and she ultimately decided to finish that certification before starting to work with me. Well, when she finally got to me, of course, it's not magic. Everything that I teach in my coaching program definitely 100% works, but it's not magic. It takes time, it takes diligence, it takes effort. And of course, once she realized that, and once she understood that, when we got into the process and we actually started submitting applications and networking and things of that nature, and she actually started talking to recruiters, she realized that, oh my gosh, I should have listened to Jasmyn. She told me that several times because she created a delay in the job search process. The certification did not really make a big difference. Of course, it helped out in terms of her basic clinical research knowledge, but it did not solve her problem, which was her visibility, which was sharing her story, which was, creating a strong resume and being able to sell herself during the interview. Those things were still an issue. And so we still had to work through those things. And a certification is not going to solve those problems. And we're talking about someone who already had some basic level experience, some basic level industry experience. We're talking about someone who already had the degree. So I always try to tell people that the certificate is not going to solve your problem. And sometimes I will say that there are people who listen to me. I will say that there are people who trust me right off the bat. They go with what I say, they don't second guess it. But then there's, of course, a lot of people who are stuck in this academic institution mindset, and we're all taught that the way is more degrees, more certifications, more certificates, more of those pieces of papers will help you get the job. Well, maybe that was true at one point, but guess what? It's not today. So that is just one story of many in which I've had people who were just so disappointed that they spent all this time, energy, effort, even money into getting these certifications and certificates, and ultimately they did not solve their problem. Okay, now before we go into the details about exactly why the certificate and certification does not solve your problem, first, I want to make a distinction between the two because I feel like people tend to get the two confused. And there is differences. There's actually strong differences between a certification and a certificate. So, essentially, a certificate is evidence of education. So, it typically indicates attendance or completion of a course or a series of courses with a specific focus. And they are usually offered for entry-level people and experienced people as well. And any group, program, institution, anyone essentially can offer a certificate program. And the result demonstrates knowledge of the content that was included in that program. And they're typically for a specific period of time, and you complete whatever the requirements are, and at the end they will give you a certificate. So it's more so along the lines of, okay, this person has knowledge about this particular topic and they completed this specific educational program. Whereas a certification, it's essentially the passing of an exam, typically to meet industry standards, and requires renewal or recertification. So it includes experience and an education component, meaning that it may require you to have a certain amount of experience, a certain number of years or a certain number of hours of experience, as well as a certain amount of education or degree, but it also requires passing an exam. And then ultimately, it will allow the person to put letters after his or her name. So, example, if you take the ACRP, CRA certification exam, then you can put CCRA behind your name. And if you take the SOCRA exam, then you can put CCRP behind your name. Now, I will point out that I do see people putting CCRA behind their name, and it did not come from ACRP. It did not come from taking the ACRP CRA certification exam. And just so you know, that is the only industry approved CRA certification currently at this time anyway of me recording this podcast. And so if you are looking into a program, if you're looking into a course or something like that, and they say at the end, we offer CRA certification. Well, if it's not through ACRP, it's not industry recognized. And there's a difference between accredited and industry recognized. So there's lots of institutions and programs that have acquired some type of accreditation, but that doesn't mean that the industry recognizes it. So keep in mind those things as well. And I didn't want to make this topic all about the differences between the two. So maybe we might cover that in more detail later, just for you guys who are interested in learning more about the difference between a certificate, a certification, and even accreditation versus industry recognized. So if you want to know more about those specific topics, DM me, let me know. And if I get enough interest, we'll create an episode about that. So that's the difference. Now, let's talk about, well, why doesn't a certificate or certification solve my problem? So if you have a bachelor's level degree and you already have the right clinical research experience and the skills that I mentioned in episode 18, and don't worry, I'm going to do an entire episode and go more in depth on the right experience so you know exactly what I mean. But if you already have a degree and you have that basic clinical research experience, then you have a career development problem, not a certificate or certification problem. I repeat, if you already have a bachelor's degree and you have the right clinical research experience, then you do not have a certificate or certification problem. You have a career development problem. And I wanted to say that twice just because no matter how many times I say it, somebody's always going to miss it. Somebody's always going to second guess it. Somebody's always going to question it. This podcast is sponsored by the CRA Solution. Are you an aspiring CRA struggling to get your foot in the door and land your first CRA position, almost ready to give up on your dream? Well, I have the perfect solution for your problem. The CRA Solution Mentorship, a 12-week online course and coaching program where you learn how to attract and break into your first CRA position with no monitoring experience or certification. After you go through this program, you'll no longer spend hours searching and applying to jobs because you'll have a proven job attraction system that consistently brings job opportunities directly to you via networking and LinkedIn. You'll also have a clear, thorough understanding of how to successfully brand and market yourself throughout your CRA job search, to strategically sell yourself and land your CRA dream job offer without feeling lost or confused, wondering if you're on the right path. If you're ready to land your first CRA job, visit aspiringcra.com and book a one-on-one sales call today. And again, you can get as many certificates, as many certifications as you would like, as you can get anyways, because like I said, certification requires a little bit more. But it's not going to solve your problem. Will it help you and will it benefit you once you actually land that first CRA job? Absolutely. By all means, definitely. I'm all about learning. I'm a life learner. I'm always going to encourage people to expand their knowledge. But I just want to make it clear that that is not going to solve your problem. So now you may be thinking, okay, Jasmyn, well, if that doesn't solve my problem, then what is going to solve my problem, right? Well, it goes back to all the things that I discussed in episode 18, right? So maybe you need to focus on articulating your story and transferable skills better on your resume. Maybe you need to focus on selling yourself during interviews. Maybe you don't have a strong online presence. Maybe you have a networking problem and you need to increase your networking skills, increase your network. Maybe you're not taking control of your personal brand and marketing yourself well. There's several different areas of career development that make up everything that will create a strong presence, a strong brand, a strong marketing strategy and plan for your career. And I would have to do a diagnosis and assessment to be able to pinpoint for every single person exactly what their specific problem is. But you can do it yourself as well. If you are getting interviews, then you most likely don't really have a resume problem. Can you strengthen your resume? Absolutely. But it doesn't sound like you have a resume problem if you're getting interviews. Now, if you aren't getting any interviews, then most likely you have a resume problem and or an online presence problem if you're not getting any callbacks, if you're not getting any inquiries, if you're not getting anything. Most likely then you also have an online presence problem and or a networking problem as well. Now, if you're getting the interviews but ultimately you aren't getting the offers, then you have an interviewing problem. and you want to focus on interviewing. So you can do an assessment yourself and you can see where you are in your job search process. You can see what type of feedback you are getting. You can see if you are getting any inquiries, any calls, any emails from any recruiters, any interviews, and then do an assessment at that point and see where in your process you need to make some adjustments or some changes. And please keep in mind that all of this applies even if you have a bachelor's level degree and no industry experience, or if you have no degree at all. You will still need to prioritize career development because that is how you will be able to take control of your career and land any job you're seeking, whether it be your first CRA position or a clinical trial associate job, a clinical research coordinator job, regulatory coordinator, or regulatory specialist position. Whatever position you're seeking, wherever you are in your career, career development will still need to be your main priority. So I want to point out one thing that, and I want to say this because I don't want people to get discouraged and I don't want people to get overwhelmed. Literally, once upon a time, you could go to college, get a 4-year degree, graduate, apply, and get a great job. The process was pretty straightforward and simple. But today, those simple, straightforward times are gone. Hence the reason there are so many career coaches now. And it's unfortunate, well, fortunate rather, some might say, but we have to let go of the past and embrace the new. And for the people who are serious about taking their careers to the next level, you have to think about investing in career coaches the same way that you think about paying for college or that certificate program or a certification. Investing in my professional development was the best thing I ever did. Investing in mentors was the best thing I ever did, and I would not change it for the world. I'm constantly investing in myself because that is what it takes to get to the next level. So ultimately, this is why I don't provide a certificate at the end of my program. And a lot of people that come to me and want to work with me, they're like, well, do I get a certificate at the end? That's like a common question. And it frustrates me sometimes because it just reminds me of the mindset that society, I live in the States, so our country, and I know it's like this in other countries too, but it just reminds me of how almost brainwashed we are to automatically just think that there's no quality, it can't work for me, this is not for me, it's not going to do me any good unless I receive this official piece of paper at the end, right? And essentially that's what it all is about, whether it's a degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. When I graduated, guess what I got? A piece of paper. That's what it is ultimately. And the same applies for a certification or a certificate. And it's so hard to get out of that mindset when you've been taught literally from birth that you need to go to school, you need to take X amount of courses, you need to get these grades, and then at the end, guess what? You'll be able to get this certificate, this degree, this piece of paper, essentially, right? And this is why I don't provide it at the end of my program. Yes, I can create these lovely, beautiful certificates and put people's name on it and say you officially completed and et cetera, et cetera. But I like to do things that make sense, and I don't like to waste time. I don't like fluff. I don't like junk, honestly. And that's ultimately what it would be. And in my program, instead of a certificate, I offer a complete transformation. Not just a done-for-you resume or LinkedIn profile with some interview prep. I create a complete transformational experience for my clients so that they can not only land their dream job, but take control of their careers and create the life of their dreams. And this is why I don't even waste the time of offering a certificate. My program uses mindset and career development strategies. And as a part of the mindset, I focus on helping people reprogram their brain into seeing their career as a business. That's the only way any of us is ever going to take control of our careers. And I want to empower you, not only my clients, but all of my listeners. I want to empower you to take control of your careers and view yourself as a business. View yourselves as a business. And you never see businesses looking around so that they can figure out, Walmart, Nike, Coke. They're not just sitting around trying to collect certificates, right? That's not what they do. That's not going to help them reach their goals, their revenue goals, right? That's not going to help them retain employees or any other, annual, quarterly goals that they have. That's not going to help them reach those objectives. And so think of your own careers in the same way. What's going to ultimately help you reach your goals? Now, again, I have to repeat this because there's always going to be that person that runs around and say, well, Jasmyn said that certificates and certifications are useless. I am not saying that, guys. I am not saying that. They can be helpful. However, they're not going to solve the problem if you're struggling to land your first CRA job. And I just want you guys to stay focused on the problem and stay focused on getting a solution, a specific solution to your problem, whether that be working with me or working with another CRA career coach or another coaching program that focuses on these types of things. Whatever that may be, I just want you guys to have the proper information so that you can make the best decision for you in your career. So that wraps up today's episode. I like to hear from y'all, so please DM me on LinkedIn if you have any questions about today's episode or if you have any topics that you want me to cover. As you know, the things that I cover in these solo episodes are just for you. So let me know what you want to hear. And just to give you a little preview for next week's solo episode, we're going to be talking about the right clinical research experience that you need to land your first CRA job. What is it? What exactly do I mean when I say the right experience? How do you know if you have enough? How do you know if you need more? So make sure you subscribe and follow this podcast so you can be notified when it drops because you don't want to miss it. Thanks for joining me today, and I can't wait to share what I have for you next week. Thanks for hanging out with me. You are now one step closer to hitting your career goals. And if you are an aspiring CRA who wants to take this work further, come work with me inside of my coaching program. You can go visit aspiringcra.com to learn all about it. If you're looking for more inspiration, check out Jasmyn Adams, Aspiring CRA TV on YouTube. And come follow me at Jasmyn Adams or The CRA Solution on LinkedIn. You can also check me out over on Instagram at The CRA Solution. And hey, if you like what you hear, don't forget to follow this podcast and make sure that you download, rate, and review this episode.